Hello everyone and welcome back to Arctic Retro. In this video I'm gonna take you through the last part of my Amiga 1200 project. If you saw the two previous episodes, you saw that I did a lot of restoration work on this. I recapped it, I installed a hard drive, I replaced the keyboard membrane, and yeah, a lot of stuff, and this machine turns out to be very nice. So in this final episode I'm gonna do the final touches, and that is to do some more upgrades to it. Now I do know that this isn't the latest and greatest things you can do to these Amiga machines, but for me it's kind of new territory. I had an Amiga back in the day, an Amiga 500, but I never made it further than the floppy disks, and the things that happened after that with Amiga I did not follow. So everything I do in these Amiga 1200 videos are completely new to me and quite interesting, to be honest. So I hope that's the same with you and that you enjoy this content. So let's see what I did to this Amiga in the final part. Before I continue, I just want to say thank you to my good friends at PCBWay. These are some of the PCBs that they have made for me, and they make very good quality PCBs for very affordable prices. If you are a hobbyist and need some PCBs manufactured quickly, then just head over to PCBWay.com and you will get an instant quote on the number of PCBs that you need for very affordable prices and very quick delivery times. PCBWay also provide other services like CNC machining, 3D printing, sheet metal fabrication and injection molding. They can also do your PCB assemblies, and they also provide advanced PCB capabilities. So thanks a lot to PCBWay for sponsoring this video, and if you want to learn more, then just go ahead and visit PCBWay.com. Finally I got the package I've been waiting for, and this one came from Isabel Sanchez Buyeku from Spain, and that's in fact amigastore.eu, and yes, let's see what I got for this Amiga. Yeah, that's the TerribleFire 1230 accelerator and expansion card. Also got some screws. The TerribleFire 1230 is a card made specifically for the Amiga 1200, that's why it starts with 12. And the 30 means that it contains a 68030 CPU, and this is designed by Stephen Leary, and he has made a lot of good stuff for the Amiga. The latest, the 1260 expansion card that uses a 68060 CPU, that's the top notch there, I guess. However, that's quite expensive, and the CPU is quite expensive and hard to get, so I had to settle with this, and even this is kind of expensive with yeah, the version I got here with the real-time clock and the two Amiga ROMs. It actually cost over 200 euros or 200 US dollars. So quite expensive, but if you want to have the best for the Amiga, then you have to pay, I guess. So this is a real-time clock module and a battery and the installation disk, and this is the actual card. By the way, I am not sponsored, I paid for this fully. Oh my god, that looks nice. So this isn't a particularly new solution for the Amigas. These cards has been around for a few years. It says copyright 2020. It has a Motorola 68030 running at 50 megahertz, and it has an IDE connector, so you can connect IDE hard drives, and that should perform faster than the built-in IDE-controller and connector in the Amiga itself. And it has 64 megabytes of RAM. You can get this with 128 megabytes for additional costs, but I think 64 is more than enough for my usage. This is kind of funny, a slogan here. Predicted ignorant EAB comment, no FPU, question mark, useless. So this board just plugs right into the expansion slot of the Amiga 1200 and should work right away. There's one jumper here, and yeah, there's a couple of other connection points. This is a CPLD chip, and you can connect the programmer if you need to update the firmware on that. I also got the 3.x ROMs from Cloanto, and I put the tape over because it has a license key, and you need this to be able to utilize the IDE controller and the connection on this card. Okay, let's put this in and test if it works or not. Exciting. Alright, I have opened the Amiga and gonna wear the anti-static wristband here just to be on the safe side. First I'm gonna remove the two existing ROMs. As you can see, the ROM sockets has room for two more pins. Yeah, they seem to be quite stuck. Better to wedge them a little bit with a screwdriver then. Yeah, you can hear by the sound from the pins that these have been sitting in here for a long time. The existing ROMs were 3.0, now in with the new ROMs, and these have been burnt on regular EEPROM chips, and these are in fact the correct number of pins as the sockets. Oh, now I just remember I need to make sure that the ROMs goes in the right socket, because there are two different ones. One is marked ROM 1 and the other one is marked ROM 2, and it's not obvious, but this is socket number 2 and this is socket number 1, if I'm correct. So then it's the other way around. And then the real-time clock module goes here. So I'm going to test the machine before I insert TerribleFire card, just to see that the ROMs are working correctly. Yeah, that seems to be working just fine. It is now booting from the hard drive and into Workbench. Nice. Now just to do a little quick benchmark here before I insert the accelerator card, let's check the speed again. 1266 dry stones, and that's the same as the stock Amiga 1200, or it's 0.04 faster. Anyway, now let's insert the accelerator card, and that goes in here. A little bit hard to get it to fit into the contact. The edge connector is a little bit high here on that side. Just difficult to find something to hold the card down with. I think it came right in now. I had to loosen that screw a little bit to get the motherboard a little bit up, but now it slides right into place. It's kind of a tight fit, but I managed to close the lid, so now it's all right. Does it work? I'm not gonna do anything with the hard drive right away. I'm just gonna check the benchmark. Yeah, seems to be working. Booting now from floppy. So, what do we have here? Let's check speed. Okay, we're up into 9,152 dry stones, and yeah, that's around the speed of an Amiga 4000 now. So yeah, that's quite an improvement. And the memory, yeah, total size 64 megabytes. Very nice. Okay, so that works. I mean, it's twice the speed of an Amiga 3000 and half the speed of an Amiga 4000. The 4000 has a 64040 CPU running at 25 megahertz. Yeah, the stock version. Okay, the final thing to do is to move the CF card over to this IDE connector on the expansion card. But how does it fit onto this? Yeah, seems like it fits right there. So yeah, seems like this was made for that. Yeah, that looks nice. Now let's see now, does it boot right into the hard drive? I mean, there's an installation floppy, so I probably need to install something. I'm not really sure what's on this. I think you need to have some drivers or at least some files on the hard drive to be able to boot from the IDE connector on the TerribleFire card. But let's see now if I boot from the F0 then. Okay, so I booted with the floppy now, and yeah, not really sure how you're gonna install the drivers. The little instructions that it came with just says to install the drivers, but not how. So here's what's on the disk. It says there's an install, and it has a README. First run install script, then it's necessary to modify the startup sequence by adding these lines after set patch. Okay, let's run install then. Okay, it's not an executable, of course. So execute script is the way to go. Now it's necessary to manually add some lines to the startup sequence. Please open the README file for more information. Yeah, not really sure how to do that the easiest way, but I'm guessing I'm just gonna have to type in what's there and take a picture of it first. I am now into my hard disk, and the startup sequence is in the S folder. So there we have it, startup sequence. So we just need to edit that. Add startup sequence. There we have it. So now after set patch, gonna add those lines there. Let's check, does it boot into the hard drive now? It said mu fast load unknown command. So much for clear and correct instructions. Alright, so I struggled a little bit. I had to Google a bit, and yeah, I wasn't able to see what was the actual error message because Workbench just started, but it wouldn't actually start. It just showed the Workbench window. But then I went down to the end of the startup sequence file, and I commented out this end CLI, command, and then I saw that couldn't load mu fast ROM because it's inside the libs folder, and yeah, so I just typed libs in front of the command, but then Workbench still wouldn't start up. It showed the error message, the load VB command showed error message invalid resident library, and that is, after googling, what I found out, because I had the wrong Workbench library files on my installation on this hard disk. So I actually just connected the other hard disk that actually worked and copied the library files inside the libs folder from this one to the other one, and then remove the semicolon here on the end CLI command. And yeah, let's see now if we start, see if it boots into the hard disk now. Yep, there you go. Nice. So, well, sort of. I don't know what happened, but only the work partition showed up. I guess this other partition, it says NDOS, and yeah, it's not valid anymore. So that's something else I need to figure out. And that's where the games are and everything. So yeah. Anyway, I'll figure out what happened with that partition sometime later. Now I just wanna configure the time on this machine. It's now 2023. I want to change the keyboard to Norwegian, and I changed it here. It was set on American, and let's see if it works. Yeah, that works. Somehow it's not possible to change the year here. That's a little bit strange. Okay, but you can always use the shell. And as you can see, I changed to Norwegian language now. So the text and the error messages and everything comes in Norwegian. How was this again? Okay, now it changed the time, I guess. To save it to the backup clock, we can write set date save. No. Okay, I think that was it. Now the time is set correct. Yes, let's turn off the machine and start it again. See if it keeps the time. Yes, it did. Nice. But what happened with the other partition? Anyway, I think that was it for the setup, and I'm gonna figure out that with the partition later. Maybe I'll have to reinstall it, I don't know. One thing I was thinking, yeah, the CPU, it's quite warm. Let's see if I can fit a couple of heat sinks. I don't think there's a lot of room between the CPU and the keyboard, but these ones are low profile, so I think they would fit. So I have inserted the other memory card now, and I also did the patching that's necessary for it to use the IDE-controller and the IDE connector on the TerribleFire card. So let's see now if it starts and if it's any faster. Yeah, it booted straight into Workbench, and also have the sysinfo floppy on the GoTech. So yeah, let's check the drive speed now then. I think it was 2 megabytes per second on the internal IDE. Let's check this one. Yeah, look at that, 4 megabytes per second. That's actually double the speed. So yeah, there's some benefits from having that. Okay, then the machine is finished. I'm gonna insert the new screws, and yeah, then I can play some games. let's try another demo. Red sector.
It's going to be a very, very big hit.
Finally, now I can run all those demos that I couldn't run before because I didn't have enough memory. And they run faster or smoother. Alright, the job is done. I have completed the work on this Amiga 1200 and oh boy, it turned out a great machine and everything works perfectly fine and it was a lot of work. I didn't count the hours I have used on this machine now, but it's a lot and you haven't seen it all because I cut away a lot of the things that I filmed to make the videos shorter and not too boring. I now have my go-to Amiga and it's this one, the 1200 with a TerribleFire card in it and a hard drive, and now it's ready for the future. Anyway, I just want to say thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and special thanks to my patrons. See you, bye bye.